All right, we have my friend Unt has less than 11 friends and at least 6 friends. So I have two inequalities there. I have x can be less than 11, not equal to, and I have x can be at least, which would mean greater than or equal to 6. Okay, so when I start putting in my graph, I'm going to need to click this button here, which allows me to put two numbers on the number line. So I'm going to click that once I move this out of the way. Okay, there we go. Now I have my two numbers I can type in. So I'm going to type in a 6 right there and an 11 here. You obviously put the smaller number first. Okay, and now I need to figure out what my graph's going to look like. Well, I'm just going to sketch myself a little one on the screen for a minute. You can do it wherever you want to, whenever you're working. Over here, I have greater than or equal to 6, so my line is technically going to start at 6, and with a closed circle, going to move in the greater than direction. Whereas my 11 side is going to go backwards. It's going to go towards the negative side. I'm getting smaller than 11. And notice I want that open circle because it doesn't equal 11. So when I go in here, if you click this drop down box, I want something that's in between, like one of these 4 options down here. I don't want an arrow because technically they're going to come into each other. So I want the one that matches my equals to on the one side with the non-equal to on the other, which is this bottom one here. So if I click that, then I just click above the 6, I click above the 11, and it puts the graph that I want. If you have your numbers in here, your graph's done, you can hit the check. Very good. We're on to the part 2. We're going to write an inequality that shows the possible amounts of friends using x. Okay, this inequality, when it looks like this, where they both go together, it's just one inequality. We start with our smallest value, which is 6. We're always going to use less than signs. In this case, it's less than or equal to. So I'm going to use the one on the screen, less than or equal to. X always goes in the middle. Then I look to my other side. I don't want it to equal 11. So I just hit with my keyboard the less than sign, and then I have my number 11. So I have everything where 6 is less than x, less than or equal to x, which means x is greater than or equal to 6, which is what that means, at least 6, and then less than x. So let's check that one. Very good. And now I'm going to write one impossible number. So if anything between 6 and 11, not including 11, is okay, then anything that isn't okay is just something outside of that range. For example, the number 5. 5 is not in that range, so then I check that one. Ta-da! All set. All right, my next problem, I am solving for x. I have 3 sides to my inequality. I want to look to the middle. I'm trying to get x by itself, so I first need to undo that negative 5. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Excuse me, all 3 sides, not both. There's now 3 sides. On the left, I end up with nothing, 0. In the middle, I have negative 7x left because my 5's canceled out. Notice I wrote the 0 over here on the left, and I didn't have to write anything in the middle because there's something else there. I don't need a placeholder. And on the right, I have 10 plus 5, which is 15. Now I need to divide by negative 7 on all 3 sides to get x by itself. Leaving me with 0 is going to be, I'm going to flip the inequality signs because I divided by negative. Let's see, and that can't be reduced, so I'm just going to keep that fraction. Okay, I am going to rewrite this though, because, and I think Get More Math takes it this way, but just to be in the habit of writing it correctly, the smallest number has to come first. Then you have the less than sign. They're all less than, yeah, no equals, okay. And then the bigger number comes second. So that'll help me graph it. So this is the answer that goes in here. So let me type that in really quick. We've got a fraction, negative 15 over 7, move over. There we go. Which is less than x, which is less than 0. Let's check and see if I did it right. Check, get that out of the way. Okay. There we go. Okay. Oh, and then we already have our negative 15 over 7. And oh, look, it put it in there for me. I didn't have to put those numbers in there. To graph it, notice the less than signs. And it's in between the two numbers, so I need one of these bottom 4 options with the open circles because they're both both not equal to, excuse me. So there we go, and like that. Okay, so this one is an OR, which is different than the AND that we saw before. So we're going to solve each one separately. So if I have the first one, all right, solving for x, I need to multiply by the reciprocal, which would be negative 4 over 1 to both sides. All right, and don't forget to flip that inequality sign when you multiply by a negative. So this is x is less than or equal to negative 24. Notice I flipped. So that is 1. The other side I'm going to do over here, we have 5x plus 10 is greater than or equal to 8. If I subtract 10 from both sides and divide by 5, I'll have my other side, which is x is greater than or equal to negative 2/5. So my answer for the solution is just typing those two in. So I have x is less than or equal to negative 24, or x is greater than or equal to fraction negative 2/5. Hopefully I didn't mess up there. Let's check. Oh, I was good. It was right. The second part, they want us to graph it. Notice again, it puts in my numbers already. Double check that those are correct. Make sure the smaller one is on this side and the bigger one is over here. And then you just double check and see. So for 24, negative 24, I want x to be less. So I want to have less than or equal to. So I want the arrow this time because I want it to go out and I want it equal. That's why I have the solid dot. So there's x is less than or equal to 24, and then on the other side I want greater than or equal to negative 2/5. So again, that solid arrow pointing outwards. So whenever it's or, you're going to have the two arrows sticking out to either side. All right, write the inequality for this graph. It looks like it starts at 3 and gets smaller. So x, we always start with x, is going to be strictly less than, not equal to, because it's an open circle, and that number is a 3. All right. All right, this one we have to solve compound inequality. This is an and one because it goes in between. It's all one big one. The graph is going to look like one graph instead of two sticking away from each other. If I put my lines here, I want to subtract 4 from both sides, all three sides. So we have 3 is less than or equal to 5x, less than or equal to 6. And then I divide everything by 5. So there we go. I have 3/5 is reduced, less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 6/5, which is also reduced. That should be the answer for the first part. Let's see. So 3 over 5, less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 6/5. Let's see if I did it right. Yes. Notice it already puts them in the boxes for me. Double check that you have the smaller one first, and then you look at your inequality signs. You know it's going to be one big one all together. I do want closed circles, so I want this guy closed circles, and I just click the 2 to graph it.